You've probably had moments when you wanted to get closer to someone, but it felt like a heavy door was shut right in front of you. It's not a real wooden door. It's when you send a message, see the read mark, and then nothing. Or when you're talking to someone and notice their eyes drifting away, as if they're already looking for an exit. Or that date that ends with "let's meet again," but you know there will be no next time. In moments like these, it feels like you're knocking with all your hope and effort, but inside there's only silence. No sign of welcome, no invitation to step in. When it happens enough times, you start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? What am I missing? Am I just not good enough? You pick apart every detail, your hair, your clothes, your words, your behavior, searching for an answer. But the truth lives somewhere else. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you're missing something that would make you lovable or worth staying for. The truth is, they're not rejecting the real you. They're rejecting the mask you've been wearing, the mask you unknowingly put on and carry into every connection. That mask is made up of the things you think others want to see. Maybe it's a confidence that's been exaggerated. Maybe it's a smile that hides your exhaustion. Maybe it's a polished perfection with no room for flaws. You wear it to protect yourself from being hurt. But it's the very thing that stops you and them from truly meeting. You bring it into one relationship after another, one opportunity after another, and keep wondering why no one ever stays. If you don't realize what mask you're wearing, you'll keep knocking on the wrong doors and living in the same loop of rejection. And here's the thing, that mask didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built over the years, shaped by the advice you were given, the ideals you saw, and the beliefs you accepted about what a man should be to be loved, respected, and chosen. So the real question is, what beliefs have been planted in you that shape the mask you're wearing today? The lies you were taught. From a young age, you were handed a ready-made script of what it means to be a man. Part of it came from movies, the bold, unshakable guys who never show weakness, who win a woman's heart with nothing more than a confident smile. Part came from advice passed down by friends or older men. Don't let her see you care too much or always be the one in control. And another part came from social media, where luxury cars, expensive suits, and perfectly chiseled bodies are paraded as symbols of male success. Piece by piece, you began building yourself around that picture, not because you were fake, but because you believed this was the path to being loved, respected, and accepted. You learned how to show up with just the right bonus points, how to appear confident even when you were full of doubt inside. You learned how to hide your worries so no one could see the cracks. That's when the problem began, when the man you built was never truly you. There's a huge gap between the image of a man that society glorifies and the kind of man who actually draws people in. The glorified image looks perfect on paper, polished appearance, refined words, a life that seems complete. But the man who truly moves a woman's heart carries something no checklist can measure, a presence that makes her feel safe and understood. A way of living that comes from who he genuinely is, not from who he thinks he needs to become. It's like wearing a beautiful suit that looked perfect on the mannequin, but when you put it on, it doesn't fit. To others, it may still look sharp at first glance, but you feel restricted in every movement. You keep adjusting it, pulling at the sleeves, loosening the collar. Over time, that discomfort shows. People can sense it, even if they never say it out loud. And here's the twist: the more you try to become that perfect image, and the more you disappear from your own story, your real self gets pushed into the background. The way you speak starts to sound like you're reading from a script. Every interaction becomes polished but hollow. You're there physically, but you're not truly present. That's why so many men are left confused when they do everything right yet still get rejected. It's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're showing them a man who isn't really you. And deep down, they can feel it. The first step to change is to tear up the borrowed blueprint. Stop living by a mold you inherited from movies, half-baked advice, or social media trends. When you strip away what others told you to be, you finally allow women to meet the man you really are. And that leads to the next question: if it's not about looks, money, or status, then what exactly are they rejecting? The real reason they say no. When you get rejected, most men assume it's because of their looks, money, status, or some dating skill they haven't mastered yet. But the truth is far from that. What makes her say no isn't what you lack. It's the energy you give off when you live through someone else's eyes. Carl Jung called it the persona, the social mask everyone wears. It's not inherently bad. We need a bit of a persona to fit in, to be polite, to work with others. But when your entire life is spent inside that mask, you lose touch with who you truly are. It's like an actor who stays in character so long he forgets his own name. You play the role so well that everyone believes it, and eventually, you believe it too. But every role gets exhausting, and sooner or later the people around you will sense the gap between who you pretend to be and who you really are. I've met men who had it all: stable careers, good looks, sharp social skills, just the right amount of humor and a strong first impression. And yet, they were still left behind. When I asked why, the answers from their partners were vague. I just don't feel it anymore. It doesn't feel real between us, and I don't know who you are anymore. It sounds confusing, but it's actually very clear. She never really met you. She only met the character you thought she wanted. And no matter how perfect a role is, it can never sustain a deep connection for long. Think back to the last time you were around someone who didn't try to impress you at all. They were just themselves, maybe a little clumsy, maybe imperfect, but you felt at ease and wanted to stay close. That's the power of authenticity. On the flip side, when you're around someone who's constantly managing their image, you feel a subtle tension you can't quite name. You don't know what they're truly thinking, and that creates an invisible wall. For women, that wall kills attraction faster than any physical flaw. You might have spent years improving yourself but headed in the wrong direction. You've been upgrading the character, not touching the real person. And when you don't show up as yourself, the love you receive isn't real either, it's for the mask. If you want to be truly loved, you have to dare to truly show up. That means accepting that not everyone will like you. But the ones who stay for the real you, not for the role you play. And when you start living as your true self, everything changes, not just in love, but in the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you show up in the world. Living authentically changes everything. There's a moment you'll never forget, the moment you finally drop the role you've been playing for far too long. It feels like taking off a heavy, tight coat in the middle of summer, or slipping out of shoes that have been pinching your feet with every step. Suddenly, you feel lighter. Walking becomes effortless. Breathing comes easier. When you live authentically, you stop wasting energy on controlling every word, every gesture. You no longer ask yourself, what will she think if I do this? You stop measuring yourself against some image you're trying to fit into. Everything becomes simpler, you just have to be yourself. But it's more than just comfort. It's a deep sense of freedom. The freedom to say what you truly think, to do what you believe is right, and to connect with people through truth instead of performance. And then, a question cuts straight to the core. Are you living to be loved or to be accepted? They may sound similar, but they're worlds apart. Living to be accepted means shaping yourself to meet other people's expectations, staying safe so no one disapproves. Living to be loved means daring to show your true self, even when it means some will walk away. Living authentically is like stepping onto a stage not knowing if anyone will clap. You might face cold stares from some, but you'll also see eyes light up when they realize they're looking at someone real, unmasked, unapologetic. And that's a kind of freedom no performance can ever give you. Here's the paradox: when you embrace authenticity, you actually become more attractive. Not in the one perfect move to win someone over kind of way, but with a natural magnetism that draws people in. Because deep down, everyone longs to be themselves. And when you live that way, you give them permission to do the same. This freedom is the foundation of true attraction, not a polished image, not rehearsed lines, but a presence that's real. But that freedom always comes with a price, and that price is the fear of being seen. The fear of being seen. We often aren't afraid of people knowing who we are. What we fear is them seeing the parts we most desperately try to hide. That fear isn't loud, but it's strong enough to keep you standing safely behind the wall you've built. You avoid letting others see your weakness, your wounds, the moments you fell short, the times you weren't enough. Think back to the first time you accidentally revealed a real part of yourself to someone. Maybe it was the moment you admitted you didn't know the answer, or when you told the story of a failure that hurt so deeply it left you speechless. Your heart pounded, your throat tightened, and part of you wanted to pull those words back. Because when the truth slips out, you no longer control how others will see you. Yet here's the irony. The very things you hide most are often the things people remember about you the longest. People don't deeply connect with perfection, they connect with the cracks. Through those cracks, they see themselves. They see that you are also living honestly, also fighting, also trying. When you dare to let others truly see you, not just your strengths, but your flaws, you send an unspoken yet powerful message: I am not afraid to be myself. And that message is 100 times more magnetic than any image you try to manufacture. Real attraction doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from having the courage to show up with everything you are, both the polished and the imperfect. It makes you more real, more relatable, and more unforgettable than any role you could ever play. And when that happens, you'll discover a freeing truth: you no longer need to try to be attractive, because your true self was always enough. Attraction that can't be faked. There's a kind of attraction you can't practice, can't imitate, and can't hold on to by sheer effort. It doesn't come from memorizing a few charming lines or practicing how to walk, smile, or speak in an alluring way. Real attraction only appears when you live in alignment with yourself, when every action, every glance, every word flows from a place that isn't forced. On the other hand, acting attractive is like wearing an expensive coat that's 2 sizes too small. At first, people may notice the polished exterior, but soon they sense the discomfort. You exhaust yourself trying to keep up the act, while they begin to feel something is off. The difference lies in energy. A person who lives authentically carries an energy others can feel even when they're not trying to impress. It's the ease, confidence, and lightness that come from not needing to prove anything. They walk into a room without seeking attention, yet eyes naturally follow, drawn to the freedom they radiate. The fastest way to lose your attractiveness is to try to hold on to it. When you fear losing someone's gaze, you start adjusting the way you speak, laugh, and act. Each small adjustment pulls you further away from yourself, and your attraction fades along with it. Real attraction is never something you chase, it's the result of living by your own values, feelings, and boundaries. It comes when you stop trying to be someone else and allow yourself to simply show up as you are. And when that happens, it's no longer about whether they choose you. You realize the choice was always yours and you choose yourself first. Choose yourself first. The awakening moment isn't when someone looks at you and says you're worthy. It happens when you know, deep down, that you're already enough even if no one is there to confirm it. When you realize your value no longer depends on someone's eyes, words, or approval, you begin to walk with a steadiness you've never had before. You no longer chase to prove. You don't have to perform to be accepted. And you're no longer afraid of losing someone because you understand that losing someone has never meant losing yourself. If there's nothing left to prove, how would you live? How would you choose your relationships differently? What would you dare to do if you no longer feared being judged? If you found even a piece of truth in what I've just shared, stay, because the next video might be the missing piece that makes your picture complete.